I'm Rob.
I'm John.
And this is the Mint One podcast,
where we talk all things NFTs and the rise of blockchain gaming.
Social media was a huge part of Web 2, but what will it be in Web 3?
Well, hopefully it'll be more transparent and accountable, but will it carry over the same traits as Web 2? Let's discuss.
Right. Off air, we have been overthinking just about everything we've said in a 10-second window?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
The wheels have come off at the start this time, but we've put them back on, and we're working things through. So how are you, John? Are you feeling well?
I'm starving because I'm on the 16-hour fast, 8-hour eat food thingy. So, I've made it. Some of you may have seen on my personal Twitter, I've pinned a post which is like, hey, I'm going to get fitter this year. Here's where I am right now. Here's my goals. I'm going to keep myself accountable through Twitter. And it's always hardest to start. And this first week's been like the first day or two was like super hard. Now I'm like okay with it, but I'm still so hungry. I'm absolutely starving and I can't eat for another 4 hours minimum. So let's hope.
Wow.
Yeah, let's hope I can get through this pod without passing out.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you disappear off screen, I will continue because, you know, the show must go on and all that.
Of course. How are you, Rob?
Yeah, I'm all right. I've had to learn the microphone mute bind because I had COVID in December, didn't I? We did 2 episodes while I had COVID, while I was testing positive. And I was like, I felt really ill, really, really ill. But I didn't have a cough or anything. But since COVID, I've had a cough for a month and it's driving me up the wall. So, yeah. All right. Anyway, enough whinging about being hungry and coughing. And let's talk about Web3. Before we talk about social media, CES this year had quite a big Web3 presence.
It did.
And there were a lot of talks. There were a lot of announcements and bits and pieces. I know you've gone over some of it. So what do you want to talk about?
Sure. So we ended the last question with a few, our last episode was all about what our hopes were for 2023. And we ended it by saying, hey, CES is coming up. Maybe some cool things will show.
Yep.
And it's been, let's call it a mixed bag. So on the tracks front, with the speaking and the presentations. Let's try to learn English, John. There was a whole bunch of talks and sessions. There's one called Gaming to Lead Us into the Metaverse. One about luxury brands leaning into AI in the metaverse and all that kind of thing. But aside from those talks, which I mean, it's just on that kind of side, it's cool to see Web3 getting that representation. There was a number of products that were showcased that claim to have or will have some kind of Web3 or metaverse interoperability. So, I'm going to start off by quoting NFT Now. They made a little post about what's been going on, and they mentioned the 97-inch OLED TV that LG's coming out with that has no wires. I want to correct them. It doesn't have no wires. LG are lying to you. It still needs a power cable.
I mean, that makes sense.
So basically all they're claiming is you don't need to hook it up to like a skybox or whatever.
Right.
But that's not the same as having no wires, because then how is it powered? Anyway, their new TVs, they claim, will have access to several NFT marketplaces right out of the box. So you'll be able to, I guess with any smart TV, and on top of having YouTube, you're able to, open OpenSea and buy an NFT. And according to Yahoo, LG TVs will also come with access to several metaverse platforms, such as Sansar, Elixir, and Orcsworld out of the box as well. And CoinDesk have reported that LG are also looking to extend into digital footwear this year with Monster Shoe, which is a virtual sneaker collection that's set to launch sometime later this year. That wasn't the only one. MasterCard, the card company, unveiled an artist accelerator, which is an incubator for musicians in the Web3 space. So they're going to provide 5 emerging artists, this is a quote from them, with the tools, skills, and access to forge their own paths in the digital economy. MasterCard has partnered with Polygon to handle the blockchain side, including its planned MasterCard Music Pass, which is an NFT that will make course materials from that curriculum, along with a whole host of other benefits available to its holders. And then to wrap that up, and the most unusual one, I feel, a company called OVR Technology debuted a VR headset capable of reproducing a wide range of scents and aromas. Smell-O-Vision. Great. So they've called it the Ion 3, and the headset will reportedly ship with 8 different scent cartridges within it that can be combined to recreate different smells. The headset also has haptic feedback built in, and they basically promote it as, hey, all of you metaverse projects, you could stick your headset on, you can experience the world, but you can also be more immersed in it if you could smell it. For example, let's say you're in an area that has a crackling fire and you'll be able to smell the smoke and all that kind of thing, or, sniff flowers or whatever it is, which is kind of cool. And that headset is set to release sometime this year, actually, in 2023. So I wonder how expensive that'll be. I imagine very, but I guess we'll see. My question, wrapping all of that up, is, of course, we spoke last week about why 2023 would be such a big year for Web3, and our hopes for what we might see at CES. Is this what we had in mind?
I don't know what I had in mind. That is my Discord going nuts, and I have now shut it. I don't know really what I had in mind. I've stopped trying to sort of imagine what I'm going to see and just waiting and seeing with a completely open mind, because it's just, everything's just so random. You never know who's going to, I was writing yesterday about Ledger. Ledger, the cold wallet manufacturer, they've got a companion app called the Ledger Live app. Mm-hmm. They now have a Web3 TCG in that Live app.
Which one?
No, they made one.
Oh, they made one.
Yeah, that's
Ledger,
right.
The payments, but what?
Yeah, it's like, but this is what I mean. You can't. The space is too random. It's honestly like news is just randomly generated, and then I have to react to it. So I made no predictions for CS. As for what we heard, Polygon yet again in the mix, making cool stuff happen. I've thought a lot since we made our predictions. I've wondered whether music in Web3 could see its time this year, because I really think it has done nothing so far, really. I know people are going to be angry about that, because there's people doing great work, and I'm not trying to disparage you at all. We need you to do that good work. I just don't think it's really caught on yet. And I think it will. It's just not quite there yet. So, it's definitely good to see the MasterCard initiative, and hopefully that does help. I know a lot of the big labels, I've spoken to people who are working with the biggest labels, Universal, Sony Music, they're working with them on Web3 music stuff. So it's, cool. It is in the works. Yeah. So it's cool to see that.
I feel like Polygon have a lot of fingers in the music NFT pie at the moment.
They do,
yeah. It was, I think just before Christmas, they announced a partnership with Legend, and I cannot remember the record label, apologies, but to bring a Web3 music app, service, website, whatever it was, to the fore sometime this year. And of course, Kings of Leon had the first NFT album. Muse did what they termed a digital pressing of their most recent album, which I think was actually a good way to skirt around.
That's such a
not wording it as NFT.
Yeah, it's like romanticizing the NFT music. Yeah.
From what I saw, it was received fairly well. Probably because they didn't label it an NFT. But yeah, it's been very. There's not been a lot of innovation in that area. It's mostly been bands saying, hey, instead of putting my music on, or selling albums or merch online, you can now also buy an NFT of the album. And you don't really get access to the album because you can get it anyway off Spotify, but buy this thing. And I'm looking to, hopefully this year we'll see some more interesting things happen in the music space. But
I guess it had to be kind of peripheral, because it's a little bit like, every time the medium of music changes, it starts its life as just like this little extra thing. Like it used to be, CDs, you'd sell the CD at HMV or whatever, and then you can also get it as an MP3, and people are like, well, why would I want that? But I think it just changes, so it's natural that they're just going to dip a toe. As for the VR, AR kind of movement towards the metaverse, you know how I feel about this. I think VR could end up holding back metaverse plans if we tie it too closely together. As for the smelling thing, so I think that's really cool. And I think we've all wondered for a very long time when that sort of stuff's going to happen. You know, you've seen that it's kind of like a treadmill, but you can move in all directions, and you wear the full suit. And then when we were at Gamescom, they had that full body suit haptic feedback stall downstairs in the business section, which was really cool.
Yep.
And they were videoing people wandering around the floor, not realizing they were wandering around the floor. It was good stuff. But the only thing with that, the smelling thing that bothers me is my favorite games are like Battlefield 1. I'm not sure I want to smell like gangrenous feet and corpses. So I'm not sure how useful that would be to me. And it's also, it feels like something that is a really cool technology, but I'll buy in like 10, 15 years when it's honed.
Yeah, and when it's... I mean, I've not tested it out, obviously. I imagine it's going to be ridiculously expensive on launch, so I probably won't get the chance to test it out. But I can't imagine the first iterations will be too accurate, let's say.
Must be so hard to do. You've got like a little alchemist sitting in your headset. I don't understand how it does it.
It's not the first time we've seen this kind of technology. Well, I mean, it's definitely the first time we've seen it in a form factor, as small as a VR headset. But I think the term smell-o-vision comes from where they were kind of pumping smells into movie theaters in the 60s. But obviously there you could have like a massive setup and just like, I don't know, have a roaring fire in the back and kind of waft smoke in or whatever it is. There was a PC in the 90s, and I can't remember the name of it, that tried to do this. But again, it was ridiculously expensive, and I don't think it ever went on consumer sale. So yeah, I'll be interested to see it. I think if you look 10, 15, 20 years from now, does smell have a part in the metaverse, MMOs, gaming? Maybe.
It makes sense in VR context.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes sense outside of VR context. Like, to me, it doesn't. I mean, there's probably some psychology that says it does make a difference. You know, if you often, smell is one of the strongest ways of bringing about nostalgia. So I can see how there would be a tie-in, but I can't really, I don't really want to smell stuff while I'm gaming at the moment. But then maybe if it's a more immersive experience, perhaps it does. But then what they're going to, they're going to add the things that you got at like Disney World, where I run through water and it sprays me in the face. Or where do we end here?
Well, it's like those, what are those cinemas called in the UK? They're like called 3DX cinemas by Cineworld. I've never tried one. It does look interesting, but it is very gimmicky. It's the kind of thing I think I'd try once and then never again. So
yeah, they're the things that I always see them like pushing subscriptions like monthly, and I'm like, I mean, who's going multiple times a week? It's insane.
Oh man!
But yeah, and I mean, it's also very limited in what they can do. Spray you, maybe blow some wind at you, and then warm you up slightly. I mean, what else have they got?
Pretty much, yeah. But it is interesting that headset is set to release sometime this year. They claim. Yeah. We'll see, but I mean, I'll be impressed if it does.
Have they partnered with any metaverses?
I don't believe so.
No.
I think it was they wanted to create a VR headset with this kind of smell-o-vision technology anyway. Yeah. And then later on they were like, metaverse is perfect fit. So they haven't partnered with anyone, but they've tried to promote it towards people in that space, let's say. And then, of course, the third thing was the LG TV. It's interesting that, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't spend much time sat in front of a TV anymore.
No. But this is the thing, isn't it? They're just trying to kind of like make an amalgamation of every technology. Like they just want it all in one place. And for the TV to remain relevant, it needs things like Netflix built in. It needs an internet connection. It needs all these things. So I just don't know if I care.
Yeah, I think my issue with it is if I want to surf an NFT marketplace, I'm going to do it on the phone in my pocket, not by pointing a remote at the TV, and that takes me like a minute to type one word. Yeah. So I don't know. I do think it's a gimmick.
So what does it mean out of the box? Is it so it's got an app for these marketplaces?
I'd imagine how, like with most TVs, they'll have, I don't know, a YouTube app built in, or
because they almost all have, like, a lot of them have browsers already.
Yeah.
So you could do what they're marketing, unless they've got a dedicated app that would help. But I mean, I'm just not remotely excited by that. That's not really news that interests me.
It does, on a wider point, it does show that massive companies like LG are seeing the appeal of Web3 and where this
100%.
whole blockchain space could go in future, and they're actively incorporating elements of it into their products. So whereas putting it in a huge TV that they claim has no wires but actually does is a bit of a gimmick.
I was trying to solve that problem, and I think I've got it. So I've got these huge lights. In fact, what my key light for this pod is a pretty big LED, circular LED white panel, and that's got giant battery packs in the back. So you don't technically, I don't need wires. So you'd have to charge these battery packs. You could have a wireless TV, but why the hell would you want to? Who cares?
Yeah, why would you want a TV that you can only watch for, say, 3 hours?
Yeah, batteries run out on my TV. That's not a good look. Anyway, we've gone a little bit off piste.
Yeah.
Here. So CES, mixed bag, I think is the right review of CES.
Yeah, I think it's not what I had in mind. I thought I'd see more on the blockchain gaming side, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And whether it be an announcement or a partnership, but we didn't really see much of that. It was very much, when they call it the consumer and electronics show, it really was consumer electronics, TVs and headsets and the like. But it does show, and the talks played a massive part in this, that there are many industries looking at Web3 and thinking, okay, how can I integrate this? How can I work this into my products? And it's cool to just see more and more of that. I mean, if you'd said like 3 years ago there would have been any blockchain tech, presented or discussed at CES, nobody would have believed you. And now to see it have such a large presence is huge for the industry.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly what I was going to say when you were telling me about the OLED TV is, if you'd said this 4 years ago, I'd have been like, oh my God, LG are integrating Web3 technology in a sort of loose way. That's amazing. We've not seen anything like that. But today, I mean, it's just not very interesting to me. I'm jaded to these big companies making little moves like that. I want to see them integrating it in meaningful ways, but perhaps that's the first step. So, not the end of the world. Okay. Yeah. Right. So we're going to talk about social media in Web3. Yeah. Now, social media more or less marked Web 2 as Web 2. It really did change everything. It's become a massive part of all of our lives, and crypto has become a big part of certain social media platforms, and it's received differently depending on the social media platform. Obviously, crypto Twitter has become almost its own entity within Twitter. Yeah. It's almost like a sub URL because it really is like its own bubble. Shouldn't use the word bubble. And then you've got LinkedIn, which I find is pretty anti. I'd say it's probably 70-30 anti crypto. I mean, I've got a load of crypto people on this, obviously echo chamber stuff, but I do see a lot of heavy criticism of crypto on there. They're the main ones I use, but now, of course, there's dedicated crypto social media platforms, which we can get onto. Now, you had a few prompts to talk about social media, didn't you? There was a few things that you want to get off your chest.
Yeah, I did, but they're quite ranty, so I feel like I should probably leave them a bit until.
Okay, I mean, we can. I can do some fluffing before you want to rant.
Well, you spoke there about Web3 social media platforms, and one that I've been paying particularly close attention to lately is Console, which they report themselves to be the Discord killer. Effectively,
I hate that.
I hate that term, but
stop trying to kill stuff, just build. Yeah.
Effectively, what they're doing is imagine Discord, but let's say to enter a community, you actually had to log in with your wallet natively in the in Console, and that would give you access to, I don't know, the Deadfellas server or the CryptoPunk server or Bored Ape or whatever. So basically, it's Discord, but rebuilt from the ground up to, I believe, run on blockchain and be specifically tailored towards Web3. Yep. So Discord had so many problems for Web3. Obviously, there's all the DM scams you get, whereas they do keep incorporating loads of really cool new features. I mean, they've just launched forums on Discord, which is super cool. They don't have a few things that Web3 users want. You know, they don't really have NFT integration. You don't have NFT profile pictures on Discord. You don't have that, or unless you use a third-party app, there's no way of having like a token-gated Discord, let's say. And basically console solves all these problems. Now, I did an interview with one of the founders, Chris Castig, on NFT Insider a while ago, and he talked about kind of his philosophy behind it and how he views the current media space. And it does look very promising. There's nothing publicly available right now. It's in testing, but you can go on their website and basically apply to become one of the first users or be one of the first communities that uses it. Very interested in it. There's no doubt that Discord's a massive platform, but it does have its problems. And I think there is a gap there for a true Web3 social media platform to exist and to thrive.
Yeah, so I think there's a sort of battle in my head when it comes to this sort of stuff, because what we're seeing is a lot of people building new versions of Web2 social media. So the one I'm familiar with is DTube. Have you heard?
No.
I mean, it's got the worst name ever.
It does.
DTube really is looking to not go up the Google rankings if you've got any filters on. But essentially it stands for decentralized YouTube. Okay. And it's cool. What they've done is cool. It's interesting. They've got no ads. The videos are not pushed by algorithms to make you watch certain things. It's just done on relevancy, but relevancy is an algorithm. So for it to be effective, you would probably need to treat that, but whatever. But before I get to the interesting part, I feel like you've got a point.
I just gone to the website. The first video I've seen is somebody uploading Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. So I don't know, that just caught my eye.
Sure.
Sorry, continue.
Old habits die hard. So there's an interesting thing. I was looking at how they sell the platform, like what makes it. Obviously, it's on chain, it's decentralized. There's a lot that's good about that. And one of the selling points is that videos can't be edited or removed once posted. Now, do you remember an episode months and months ago where we talk about that girl who was sexually abused or harassed, and then she went to the university, they ignored her claims, so she reported the crime on chain so it couldn't be hushed, and it went, viral for a use of blockchain. So this does kind of worry me, the not being able to take stuff down. I presume they mean without a good reason, which is obviously rough territory, but then you've got things like revenge porn or doxing or illegal content.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scary stuff.
I mean, I would imagine, I don't know what the server setup is like or how decentralized this website is, but surely the creators would have a way of, making a video not available to be viewed. I don't know.
It's weird, but then could they be punished for storing these videos? I mean, it's really difficult territory. Like genuinely I don't know how you answer a lot of these questions. But if we just sidestep that, because that is an entire episode on its own that we would spend an hour and not get anywhere like usual. So they've got other cool stuff, like you can see who liked and disliked a video a little bit. I guess like LinkedIn, although no one's really added the dislike button. YouTube obviously removed it famously. Hit me.
Okay, so I figured something out. The DTube doesn't run off its own servers. If you click on any video on DTube, it takes you to a video uploaded on YouTube, but like embedded in their own website. Okay. So what is it? Is it just it's effectively just a skin at that point?
No, you can. It is meant to be. You're meant to be able to upload content.
Interesting.
Has it? I haven't been on it in a while because it just wasn't relevant to what.
Let me click on a few more. See if that one's a YouTube video.
You can definitely upload videos directly to them.
Yeah,
but it is. I feel like the design is. I mean, just obviously.
Yeah. But are they just, are they saying, hey, you're uploading it to our platform, and then they're just uploading it to YouTube and doing an embed? And thinking, hey, look, our platform.
I don't know. It also, it is, I don't know. I don't know how they're not sued by YouTube for this layout. I mean, the UX is identical, which is probably a selling point, but,
I think one of the biggest monopolies in Web 2 is YouTube. There is no competing video app.
A lot have tried. We've seen, Vimeo and stuff.
So many have tried, but so many have slipped up because hosting video is prohibitively expensive. And not just that, but as much as people hate the algorithm and things being recommended to them that they might not enjoy, the YouTube algorithm, at least how I see it, is actually really helpful. And it's difficult to create from scratch a similar algorithm or a similar piece of code that can do what YouTube does. What I mean by that is, I have numerous accounts, so, my kind of list of recommended things refreshes all the time, but it has an uncanny knack of recommending things to you that are either genuinely interesting or you think aren't, but you click on them and then you actually quite like them. And I've not seen any platform do anything like something as cool as that.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like trying to replace Google, which obviously lots of people do. And there are, sure, that actually kind of does. But if you're trying to do the same thing, Google has too much data and too much stuff, which is the same as YouTube. YouTube has too much content and too much data to really compete with, unless you do something completely different, like ChatGPT does. But ChatGPT, I'm sure, harnesses Google in some way or another. Have
you heard the news about Microsoft and ChatGPT?
No. Have they bought it?
No. Basically, Microsoft are in talks or have entered a partnership with OpenAI to incorporate ChatGPT into Bing. Yes, Bing isn't dead.
Why won't they let it die?
Basically, I mean, Bing's been useless for the past 12 years. The most searched thing on Bing through its entire existence, you can look this up, is just Google.
Yeah.
But I think this has the potential to be a masterstroke. And I'm not saying I envisage everyone all of a sudden just using Bing. Because that's such a difficult thing to imagine. But then again, 6 months ago, you wouldn't have imagined people using ChatGPT instead of Google for everyday questions. Yet a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
Google are worried about ChatGPT, and they are very quickly be like, oh, God, we've got to spool up our own language models. We've got to put something out there that's equal to this. And Microsoft have kind of swooped in here and thought, hey, maybe we can take a stab at taking over the search game.
Well, I mean, as we move into Web3, if you look at Web 1 to Web 2, obviously the borders are very blurry. We don't really have a set time. But as you look at the transition, the key players did change in some areas. Not all. Obviously, Google did well, but Google wasn't always the top website for a long, long time. For over a decade, Google was still growing, and it was, you went to AOL and other now dead websites. But with this DTube thing, I really hate saying its name. They need to change that. Surely they must have. Wrong. It sounds so wrong, especially because Tube has been reinvented by the blue community. They've got to change their name. But they have something on their platform which I've noticed a lot of Web3. So basically, I started a point and never really got to the end of it. The war in my head is whether we need to build new versions of Web2 social media on chain, and we start fresh and we build it with the new technology. And part of me thinks that's the only way it can work, because these old Web2 companies are now too big, too cumbersome to make agile moves with new technology without, spending billions and crashing the current platform and losing users. And I think it might not be possible for them to transition smoothly. Some will, but I don't think all of them can. But then the other half of me is like, these platforms have spent so long building these algorithms, building these user bases, having these users embed their own schedules into their websites in various ways, like people waking up, checking their phone in between meetings, during meetings. We're programmed to use social media in so many ways that they can take as long as they want to integrate on-chain stuff like blockchain without really too much of a worry. So I'm kind of torn by these things, but there's this trend of Web3 social media being built from the ground up. And I've noticed a trend within that trend, which is on the decentralized YouTube, as I'm now going to call it.
Much better.
Yeah. So you can earn money by creating content. Shocker. That's how everything works. And YouTube is amazing for that. Like, they really have worked out the monetizing model better than anyone. Like, TikTok is an abomination compared to YouTube.
Yeah.
People make a lot of money off YouTube. Obviously, you can get demonetized and all that, but that's it. Going off track a bit more. But what you can earn money from is you earn their token is by watching content. You do earn the token. And this has been something that I've seen all of the social media platforms in Web3 that have been established to some degree have a way of regular usage earning you their token, and their token can be redeemed for other stuff and also presumably traded out on probably PancakeSwap or something. So that's interesting. And I don't know how I feel about that in Web3. It feels a little disingenuous, like you're harvesting use of your platform when it's not like pure use. It's not, someone's not coming to your platform necessarily to scroll through and look for something interesting and then like it. They might be scrolling through and liking stuff because they know they'll get tokens off the back of it, which feels kind of fake. So
I am aware, and I can probably talk about this because I don't think anybody will be able to build it as quickly as it's going to be released. I'm aware of a tool that's been built by some people in the NFT community, the Wax community actually, that will allow particular collections and particular streamers that live stream to reward the viewers exactly in that way. So basically they'll just install this little widget or whatever it is. It'll track everyone in chat and it'll reward them in a particular currency or token for watching a Twitch stream. And again, it feels gimmicky. It just feels like it can't be sustainable. It's similar in a similar way to how lines can't always go up, or you shouldn't be able to earn a living playing video games. Like, it might work short term, but there's no way this can be effective long term. Like, what's the browser called? Brave browser. You earn their BAT token just by using it, but how much do you earn? $2 a month if you're using Brave every day, which I do. Like, it's negligible to be the point that it doesn't really have any impact, and it shouldn't realistically impact viewers or make a prospective viewer jump from one stream to another just because there's a chance to earn. I will admit, in the early days of these integrations going live, there's probably going to be a period where people can earn money that they shouldn't be able to earn just by watching a live stream. But long term, I can't see it having much of a shelf life.
What if, I agree with most of that. Obviously, when we say you can't earn earn a living playing games, we mean the average person. If you're very good at it or very entertaining, you can.
Oh, of course.
Which neither of us apparently are, or we would probably be doing that instead. But with the currency thing, so I think there's parallels with play to earn, definitely, and I think it will probably share the same pitfalls. But then I think there's a way in which it could be interesting if the token has value other than just trading it out for fiat. Because like the Brave browser, you spend all month, you get $2. That's rubbish and no one cares. But what if you got 2,000 Brave tokens instead? I don't know if they have a token or what it is. But say you said that a Brave token, and then that can be used for different things that are desirable and can't be bought for fiat necessarily. I haven't thought about that enough. You might be able to do a system that can. There's hang on, just got to look at my notes. There was this is it. So I've actually signed up for Minds. Have you heard of Minds?
No.
So it's a social media platform that was created. This isn't in my notes, but I think it was 2015 by Aaron Wolf, who created Yahoo Games and was apparently a seed investor in WhatsApp. So presumably this person is stupid rich now. And it's all about privacy for users, which is something, we need to come back to, because that is one of the benefits of Web3, owning your own data and privacy. It has, I think, 6 million members. It has a lot of elements of YouTube, Twitter and Facebook kind of merged. And so they do the kind of almost the activity farming thing where tokens can be earned for activity, which again, I think is probably going to need a very nuanced algorithm to stop people gaming the system.
Yep.
But either way, the token you earn can be used to promote your own articles. So you can't advertise, but you can if you use the token which you get from being active in the Minds website. So it's interesting. I feel like it's too complicated to really unpack and to really understand how it's going to work when the hordes of people come in. I mean, 6 million members is a lot of people, so I'm sure they've seen a lot of the issues that might come up. Mm-hmm. But it's strange that it sounds on paper like a great system.
Yep.
But the thing is, people don't just, there's always these jokes about developers who they set out things to be a certain way, and then people come in and start using them upside down and side to side, and they're doing nothing how it was intended. And I think the same thing will happen if people like me and you, and probably our entire listenership, would just go on the website, browse it when we fancied, leave a comment or two, like something we like, maybe post an article or a video, and then we'd get tokens. And when we've got enough and we post something we really like, perhaps we promote it with the tokens. Great. If everyone used it like that, it'd work. Mm-hmm. But you're going to get these old school Chinese bot farms, which we've seen in games and all sorts, where they've got entire factories of phones that, do you remember Pokemon Go? It was insane. Anyway, they're just going to game the system. They're just going to scroll stuff at random, do those Twitter things where, you must get tagged the same as I do.
Yep.
In a billion things a day about just total rubbish. Mm-hmm. You're just going to get a load of that. And I don't know how they get around that. And it still has this sort of, we'll kind of pay you if you use our platform, which makes me uncomfortable in ways I can't quite articulate.
Yeah, it's a very, I can't be mad at them for using that as a marketing ploy.
No.
You can be paid for using our platform. It's a very strong marketing initiative.
Yep.
It could. It
depends what you mean by paid, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I think people's minds are going to jump to, oh my God, I can earn $100 a month. And realistically, you're earning 50 cents.
Presumably there's a way in which, if the profits were distributed, you could, I'm sure Facebook could, in its heyday, have feasibly monetized user engagement.
Probably.
Where, just a small percentage, to a point where it's, $2 a month if you're on Brave browser, it is just pointless, especially if you're using it a lot. But if it was $50 a month, that's not a ton of money for, a company that's got 1 billion users. That wouldn't be a ton of money, but I'd pick a browser. I'd pick any browser that paid me $50 a month. I'd pick over Chrome or Firefox or whatever.
Well, I think back in the early days of Brave, you could earn a lot more than you could now. But the issue with all of these, hey, we do a profit share, is the more people use the app, the less you get. Yeah. So you need hard problem. You need to be in early, or what's the point? I use Brave just because it's quite honestly a better browser than Chrome.
I've stopped using Chrome, apart from this.
Apart from this because pod. Riverside only works. Riverside, if you're watching this, please enable it on Brave or not Safari's dreadful. I need to get off Safari. But just Firefox, even it'd be great. But anyway, it's. The early days of Brave, you could earn a lot more. Nowadays, it's a pittance, let's say. And I think the same goes for many of these watch to earn, engage to earn systems and platforms that are popping up. And it's difficult to work around that. Even if, as these platforms grow and they get more and more advertisers, more and more money in one end, there's so many more people that need a share of it on the other end. So it's tricky. What I will say is we've got, I nearly said DTube. I have just said it. Decentralized Tube.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a YouTube equivalent. We've also got a Web3 based, or purported to be Web3 or blockchain based live streaming apps like Theta TV and others, which I don't know how Theta TV isn't dead already, because as far as I understand it, hosting live stream video is as resource intensive, if not more resource intensive, than something like YouTube.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just opened a tab with Theta TV on it. The top stream that pops up has, it's just got just over 100 viewers, but it's the NASA channel. It's NASA's live stream. But the second biggest one up right now has got 63, then it's 30, and then there's a whole bunch of live streams with like 1 or 2 viewers.
Yeah, it's not great.
I think there's a way to earn through Theta, but it's not proving to go very well for them. I will say the most popular blockchain-based social media so far, and I don't think many people consider it to be blockchain-based, but in effect it is Mastodon. Let me say that again. Mastodon. That app that everyone flocked to once Elon took over Twitter.
Yeah.
Basically the way Mastodon works is there's a large number of nodes, similar to a blockchain, but each works as its own sort of instanced version of Mastodon. So rather than joining Mastodon and having access to every user and every site and every whatever it is, you have to join a node on a specific topic, or for a specific country, or for a specific interest. So I think I'm on one for the United Kingdom, and I think I've got second accounts on one for just Web3 in general. Yeah. But the problem is, especially for something like Web3, which is all about people from around the world being able to connect to one another, having these instance nodes, which most places are very kind of location-based, it limits the ability for people to actually network and discuss things. And I mean, it's cool to have this online community where you start to notice the same people more often, but I mean, you get the same thing by following someone on Twitter. If you follow someone on Twitter, you see their tweets in your feed. So again, it's kind of this, I mean, Mastodon's doing really well. I think it's got just shy of 2 million monthly users this month. It's dropped off massively after everyone flocked to it in December, and I believe it will probably continue to decline. There's a niche for it, but it's not going to be this massive Twitter killer, if we want to use Console's verbiage. Yeah. So I don't know. It's maybe we'll see Console do well this year, or another Web3 social media platform, but I'm not jumping for joy at the prospect of Web3 social media yet. I think there's a lot of there's a long way for us to go, and I'll wait to see one start to grow and grow quickly before jumping ship.
Yeah, I think someone needs to do something new. Basically, they need to harness blockchain in a new way.
Something on that point. What do you think could be done new, social media wise?
If I knew that, I would be seeking VC funding, I suspect. But something needs to change. Well, we know one thing that needs to change, which has been the source of a lot of the startups, which is privacy.
Yeah.
So that's been an issue for a while.
Yeah, that's the one thing that a lot of the kind of messiahs for Web3 social media preach, which is, hey, your data is going to be secure, or kind of blockchain in general. Hey, your data is yours, you own your data is secure, etc., etc. I certainly think there's going to be more data privacy and more control of your own data in Web3. But this whole kind of decentralized idea of there being no central authority doesn't hold up to snuff. For example, how do I get to OpenSea, or how did I get to the Wax blockchain, or how did I get to Atomic Hub? I use Google. I use a Web2 platform. The problem with having these kind of decentralized platforms all on their own and having no central authority to be able to search for them or rank them or whatever it is it makes it incredibly difficult for the average user to actually get out of the system what they want. Are there solutions to that in Web3, blockchain, etc.? Maybe, but how do you create a Web3 Google that has data privacy, but still has all of the advantages of, being able to actually look for the things you want and have accurate search and just all the things that makes Google great without all of this data, which makes it as good as it is?
Time, I suspect, and a lot of it. But I think we can still do better than we have. It's interesting. A lot of people think that Web3 is more private than it is. And I think it gets quite confusing because people talk about privacy and then they talk about transparency in the same sentence. And they're definitely completely at odds. So it's obviously pseudonymous. So you cannot have the problem of people tracking you. But as has been said by far smarter people in the past, if you really want to not be tracked, you need to create new wallets pretty regularly with new keys. That's the only way you can fully not be tracked. But the true benefit of particularly Web3 social media, or any website that has data, is that no one person should be able to be hacked and have access to people's data because it's decentralized and it's not locked onto one server. And so if it's not viewable in like a block explorer, it ought to be safe. It's probably not perfect. There's probably lots of ways around it, but it'd be better than what we have now, which is, you see a hack of one person in one big company. It's just a little person in the IT department or something, but has, keys to the Golden Gate, and they go through and they take everything. LastPass recently saw a hack of all people. I mean, it's terrifying. And that was just because of one weak password. So, that's a real benefit. And that is privacy in a way. And then also in the same sense, and I've not seen this expressed anywhere. I'm sure it has been, but I'm not seeing it expressed. One benefit of Web3 social media when it comes to data is no entity can sell the data because the data is already public. Yep. So you can aggregate that data. You can create reports on that data, which can be sold, but everyone has access. Everyone in theory could have done that because they have access to the same data. Whereas Facebook selling data, that data is just theirs. I mean, they're the only ones with access to it and they sell it to people. And that's what's become this horrible business model that people now curl their lips at. So that is one benefit of I think of Web3 social media. The problem is, I don't think the average person cares enough about privacy at the moment to jump ship. I don't think the motivation's quite there yet, even though a lot of people are. I mean, Minds was made completely off the back of that. It seems as if that was the real selling point for that platform. So I think privacy is currently the best bet, which is why they're pushing it. So the kind of use to earn. Oh God, I didn't want to coin another one of those, but paying people a token to use the platform, like activity farming, kind of. Is one way of selling it. And then the second way of selling it is, I guess, privacy. And then the third way I've actually seen, which has only just come to me, but I've seen this a lot, is freedom of speech, which is less of an issue since, should be less of an issue since Elon. But as we've seen, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. This is perfect. But as you've seen, some speech gets blocked, as people sometimes get blocked. John, any thoughts on that topic? What a segue that is.
That's a brilliant segue. I did have a final point I was going to raise on the privacy aspect, but I'm
frothing at the mouth.
It's escaping me now because of how shocked I was at how good the segue is.
Yeah. We've ruined the segue by pointing at it.
Let's just jump into the segue. I'm sure I'll remember. So this is basically just a segue to a rant, effectively. I
like those.
I've been seeing I mean, this isn't a new trend. This has been happening for ages, but it just seems to be in my particular social feeds coming up more and more often lately. And I've started to see more of it in the Web3 space. And it's something that I think is very harmful, very detrimental, and something that hopefully doesn't become the status quo in Web3 or and similar spaces. So I was scrolling LinkedIn, and I'm not going to name names to anyone in this post, But basically, someone that I am friends with, follow on LinkedIn, posted basically that, hey, I've just blocked someone for a post about how love or loathe him, X influencer is a genius. And they're basically saying, oh, read the room. Nobody wants or needs your bootlicking of them. And if you're a fan or you think this person isn't bad, please block me or remove your connection with me, unfollow me, etc. And the comment section to this message on LinkedIn was interesting. There's two sides to it. Overwhelmingly, the side that got the most comments and got the most likes on their replies was the side saying, yeah, this guy's a moron. He's, he's awful. Everything about him, his message, his business is dreadful. And, someone even said, I want to erase him from my memory, which is crazy. But those were the comments that got the most engagement and the most agreement, actually, with that statement. But there was a minority that replied saying, why not agree to disagree? No need to block them. We shouldn't be afraid of opinions that we don't necessarily agree with. And that we should all be able to have honest and mature debates about all sorts of topics in life. And that blocking someone based on having an opposing view is, I don't know, it doesn't seem right. It's kind of, someone said, and I quote, it's a sign that the person cannot accept another person's point of view. It's akin to someone on the left of the political spectrum saying, well, I refuse to talk to someone on the right, or vice versa. And that it's kind of narrow-minded and only polarizes society further and digs us into these trenches that I like what I like, and I don't want to hear from anyone that disagrees with me. And there were some people commenting, replying to those replies, saying things like, oh yeah, but this person's awful and his opinions are awful, nobody should listen to him. And I think that's what really got my gears grinded on this issue. Yeah. Is that it's, especially in Web3, many people have very different opinions about things like decentralization, data privacy, the way certain blockchains are run, the way certain marketplaces are run, projects are run, etc. Whereas there might be some esoteric ideals that we all prescribe to, we all have different methods and different ways to get to those. And I think this idea of, I don't like this opinion, I want to silence it, is a dangerous one. So my question from this is, from all of that I described on LinkedIn, we have seen similar divisive attitudes shared often, or increasingly often, across the NFT space. Do you think that you should block people you disagree with? And if not, what should you do instead? Wholeheartedly disagree with blocking people you disagree with. If they're being abusive, absolutely. Sure. But if they're... Yeah. No, it's your rant. I was going to say, I'm not saying nobody should ever not block anyone else. Yeah, I know you're not. Abuse, harassment, all of these awful things, stalking, etc. Absolutely. Block someone, get rid of them, get them out of your life, try and distance yourself from them as much as possible. But an opinion? No, yeah. It's, you can't... I mean, we're back on the echo chamber issue. Yeah. But I notice more and more that social media is designed to be an echo chamber because it wants to give you more of what you like. We know that. And I have gone out of my way. I tell you what, I don't think he listens enough, or I don't think he pays enough attention to this podcast to hear this call out of him. But one thing I really respect Dave for, it's funny, isn't it? How English is that? But it's not that I'm slagging him off. It's that I'm complimenting him and I don't want him to hear it, because as a British person, that makes me uncomfortable. One thing I really respect Dave for is, he won't be in an echo chamber. He's always looking for criticism. So when we first got into Web3, like crypto, he was seeking out people who disagreed with it and he wanted to know what they didn't like and why they didn't like it. And then he tried to formulate an answer, and some things he agreed with. And I did it to a degree because of
academia, I had to do it. Again, I'm using the word degree twice. The degree I did had a lot of that in it. I had to engage in debates with people, and we had to, pick a side, and you had to disagree on stuff. So I learned that sort of discourse and debate is useful. But Dave did it more than me, and he still does it. If you're in the Wax Telegram, if people come in there and start laying into the fundamentals of Wax, the OIGs or anything like that, he's immediately replying and explaining. He wants to explain it. He wants to understand what their concern is. And that really is the healthiest way to get a balanced opinion. Yeah. And I mean, I know who you're talking about in the LinkedIn thing.
Yeah.
And it's about as polarizing a figure as possible.
Just to kind of, for your benefit, not necessarily for the listeners, I don't prescribe to this person's ideals. It was just a post I saw.
Nor do I. But then, do you know this? I mean, we're getting into the weeds now, but I'm going to say it because this is. I'd love to write an article on this, but I don't have a platform I could publish it on. Okay. I think we have this really weird thing with hero worship. Maybe it's always existed, but people are like, so take Jordan Peterson. He's the best example I can give, right? Because I know a lot of people that hate him, and I know a lot of people that love him, and I'm firmly in between.
That makes you very rare.
You don't have to agree with everything someone says to like them, and you don't have to disagree with everything someone says. So Jordan Peterson, I think he makes some brilliant points on certain areas of biology, like where, neurology, biology, psychology, his area. I think he makes some really interesting points, and he backs it with research. Mm-hmm. And I find it interesting to listen to. I think he particularly gives very good messages to young men who are struggling with mental health or a direction in their life, and I think he gives good advice on that subject, and I really like that. And I've watched many videos and debates and lectures. I wholeheartedly disagree with him on some politics and all of religion, but I don't block him because of it. You don't have to like this. I don't know why we're obsessed with this completeness where you have to you're fully in that camp or you're fully in this camp. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense. And most of my heroes are littered with things that I don't like about them. Yeah. Particularly the further you go back, you start to see sexism, or you start to see all these things that you just think, oh my God, I don't like that about you. But you made these great points, and I really like you for doing that work. And I think we have to kind of separate it out a little bit. And so I'm fully against blocking people that you disagree with. I just think that's a very unhealthy mindset.
Yeah, that was in the post I saw on LinkedIn. After some of the replies started rolling in, she edited it to say, and I'll take a quote here, I've muted notifications because some people seem very triggered at me having blocked someone. Some of the comments have a, yes, B person did bad things, but vibes. I'm sure person C was an excellent businessman, but it's still not appropriate to write 7 things we can learn posts about him. Don't glorify assholes. I don't think it's glorification. I think if somebody genuinely has, or shares a fact or particular opinion and backs it with research, but also does terrible things, those terrible things don't mean he's wrong on the research-backed stuff that he's providing.
But again, look what happened when people disagreed with her. She muted them.
Yeah.
She's just rejecting anything that's not within her accepted worldview, which, I mean, we've seen this in crypto constantly, particularly externally. We've seen it internally recently, the whole tribal thing, which we've had an episode on, and I wrote an article for NFT Insider on. There was at least really bad tribalism in crypto, and people just, it's exactly the same thing. People are like, oh, Engine's the best gaming blockchain that will ever exist. You can never tell me different. And I was like, well, yeah, it's done a lot of good, but I can't get my NFTs off without paying thousands in gas fees. That doesn't sound great if I want to, move my things. And no. It's, Wax is awful. Polygon's awful. Solana's awful. Don't talk to me. It's just the same thing. And then obviously you've got all the people from outside crypto who are like, there's no underlying value under blockchain technology. NFTs are dead, and it's just the same thing. And I'm sure it's happened for all of time, but social media has made it worse for sure.
Yeah,
and Web3 social media won't fix that, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, we can dream. It is sad to see that some would kind of rather silence what they don't want to hear rather than engage and have a willingness to.
I mean, we're skirting around the obvious examples. There are there are plenty of political examples of silencing opposition. Yeah. I mean, that is, and the people that do that tend not to be the most virtuous and moral people. So perhaps look at why would they do that? Why would they silence people? But yeah, it's
no, it is unfortunate. It's unfortunate, especially people that are kind of willing to cut ties with either things they like or people that they know for having a different opinion to them. And for, I started feeling this way when I saw that post. When I saw it, I was almost like, how egotistical can you be that you feel that you should control what I do or do not think or say, or not that I would. Because you're essentially saying, oh, if you listen to this person, you're going to have his opinions, and that's awful. Where, no, like, you're basically saying you don't think that I have the critical thinking skills to listen, to analyze, and then to utilize my own judgment as to whether that information is something I should throw in the bin or try and incorporate. And that's what really kind of drove me up the wall with it. I did have a very quick follow-up question to it to tie it back into Web3. Should we demonize people in Web3 for honest mistakes? What I mean by that is not rug pulls. Like, rug pulls are deliberate.
Are you going to use my term? Please use my term.
What I was going to say is, let's say there's a popular NFT collection and you hold one of their NFTs. The funny enough, this actually happened to Bored and Dangerous. Jenkins Valley, he came out with these, the first iteration of these profile pictures. I've talked about them before. They were in the Uncanny Valley. They looked awful. Should we demonize people like him for an honest mistake that did kind of, well, it did tank the price of the NFTs? But should we demonize him for that? I don't feel we should. But there was a minority of people that were like, oh my God, you don't know what you're doing. I hate this project now. I'm selling all my NFTs and running away. And it's, I mean, you do what you want with your own NFTs and your own crypto, but to kind of drag someone through the mud for an honest mistake in that kind of sense, it doesn't sit well with me.
It's almost impossible to answer that effectively without doing it case by case.
Yeah.
Because you can make an honest mistake would be, just theoretically, you could keep all of a user's data on a USB stick and leave it on a train. That's an honest mistake, but you could start a war. Like, there's I think the level of stupidity has to be assessed. But I don't think, generally, if someone had good intentions, I wouldn't want to see them demonized. We've all made many mistakes, and there's been I think you've got to remember how difficult it is to be in a position of power, which is what these people are. If a project becomes very popular, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a game or an NFT collection, they've suddenly got power. And this is why we've discussed this a lot. This is why we saw so many companies and games tank and go to zero, is because, like, the Crypto Mines example, the game Crypto Mines is why I invented the rug slip phrase that I used to jam in every week, because they weren't bad people and they weren't disingenuous, but they held too much of their own token, not realizing, not being economists, not being financiers, not realizing what that might do if someone saw the wallet was in the developer's hands.
Yeah.
And then they tanked it, and people lost tens of thousands of dollars. Now, I wouldn't want to see them demonized, because I mean, maybe I'm being, if I'd lost 10, 15 grand, I'd probably be angrier. And I have, so much, sympathy for the people that did lose, but I could see how you could make that mistake. It's not an unthinkably stupid mistake. They've made a certain amount of this token, they minted it, and then they've got it on a wallet they presumably were concentrating because they were doing so well. If you looked at the price, it was skyrocketing. And all of a sudden, these people with no experience in finance or game development, or they've got no relevant experience, but they've created something very interesting and that people like. They've suddenly got all this power over a lot of people's money. And I think it's a tricky position to be in. And I felt very sorry for them, even though, and they tried really hard to recover. They didn't just cut and run. They didn't just say, look, we messed up, see you later, which so many people have done. As soon as it goes wrong, they're gone. So yeah, I think honest mistakes need to be done case by case, but generally, if you had good intentions and it wasn't horrendously stupid, I wouldn't want to see you demonized now.
Yeah, I think again, I agree with you. It's all about the intent and just how honest someone's being.
Yeah,
it's easy for, let's take Sam Bankman-Fried, for example. It's easy for him to say, this is all a mistake. And allegedly, there was malpractice and he didn't do what he's supposed to have done. He wasn't quite being honest with us.
Well, I mean, he's demonstrably done things that are, immoral.
Well, I shall let the legal hammer fall on your head rather than mine.
I think I could defend myself of him doing immoral things.
Perhaps, yeah. I
mean, but there's people. You should see some of the ex-FTX employees. A number of them have podcasts. And, I mean, they don't hold back. No. But yeah, that is almost, I think it's indefensible. What he's done compared to some other people. But yeah.
Let's hopefully we won't have any more SBF figures in 2023.
Please no. Although, so it's been going all right the last couple of weeks.
It's been going okay. Funny, looking on CoinMarketCap, we've seen a few coins rally a little bit. We've seen a bit more,
spiked.
Some more vibrancy in the space. I mean, looking at Ethereum, it's gone up by 12% in the last week. So yeah,
steady as she goes. That's what I want.
Steady.
Yeah, people are like, oh, it's gonna spike it's to the moon. No, stop. Steady as she goes. We want it nice and steady.
Nice, long, sustained growth. Hopefully, that's what we'll see in 2023. Well, yeah. I guess that's it. That wraps up my rant and this wider episode. It's CES 23, interesting. I'll try and get my hands on that headset if I can, but I will definitely report back if I tell you what it's like. But it's nice to see Web3 represented in any case. And Web3 social media. Looking forward to seeing console and perhaps some other apps rise this year. And hopefully we'll see a bit less of a bit more debate and a little less blocking. Let's put it that way.
Sure. Nicely summarized.
Awesome. Well, there we go. That is episode 53 of the Mint One podcast. Rob, where can we find you?
You can find daily blockchain gaming news on tokengamer.io, twitch.tv/tokengamer, YouTube content. We have more stuff in the works. We're just trying to figure a few things out. And the app, remember to download the app. We're still working on integration of other chains, which will be coming soon. The first chain, in addition to Wax, will be coming soon. So you'll be able to see your NFTs there and do exactly the same stuff, which will be cool. We've got competitions. We've got an interesting interview coming. Just stay tuned. Just tokengamer.io. Stick your head in the door. Have a look. Set us as your homepage. I bet no one's asked you to do that in a long time. Okay, John.
It helps. It helps get those views in. That's for sure.
I definitely haven't thought of that. Where can we find you, though?
So, for, I guess, daily, we probably are daily now, NFT, blockchain gaming, Web3 news, head to nftinsider.io and at nftinsider_io on Twitter and Instagram. Our newsletter, nftinsider.io/newsletter. We've got a decent amount of subscribers now, and it's on a bit of a roll. All the team is now back after Christmas and New Year's and all that good stuff. So yeah, expect some good stuff from us in the next few weeks. For me personally, it's at Hydropowered, HYDROPWRD on everything. Not any of the Web3 ones we've talked about lately, but I will sure be getting my name reserved after this podcast, so nobody takes it. Anyway, Twitter is the main one. Web3 commentary, industry talk, my fitness journey, if you're interested in that. And yeah, think that is all for me.
Okay.
So,
have I got to do the outro? There's a strange silence.
Would you like to?
Yeah, I got to practice. Okay, thank you for listening to episode 53 of the Mint One podcast. We will be back next week talking to each other, probably. I don't think we've got a guest yet. We do have some guests in the works, though. In fact, as soon as this goes off air, I have one to suggest.
Interesting.
So yeah, we've got a lot of cool stuff coming. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, follow, subscribe, 5-star, comment, share, all the usual buzzwords to help the algorithm push us into people's faces, because that's how you get listeners. And we are looking forward to seeing you again. We won't see you next week, so the wheels have come off.
We hope to see you again next week.
So the listeners may not know this, but we did, when we first started recording this, John was doing the outro, and I think we took it in turns doing the outro actually, and we would say the same thing every time. We'll see you next week, and then we'd go, well, we won't see them, and then we'd stop the recording and re-record it. And outros used to take us so long to do, didn't they?
Yeah, they took a good. Lately, we've been shortening it to like 2-3 minutes. I mean, we've been breaking the status quo with this one.
Yes, this is my fault.
Yeah, they went from being like 10 minutes long to getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and yeah. And now this one is just skewing the numbers, but generally we've become more honed. So I won't see you next week, but you hopefully will see me, or at least listen to me. Thank you for listening to this episode, and goodbye for now. See you around.
Okay, that'll do. That'll do.